Hi, I'm Wes Clark Jr., and I'm here to talk to you a little bit for TYT about the ballot initiatives that are going on nationwide. Got 10 and a half initiatives to go over very quickly from a number of states, so bear with me. To me, the most important initiative to be aware of nationally is Florida's Amendment 1. Now, this is called the Florida Solar Subsidies and Personal Solar Use Initiative. It's backed by Florida Light and Power, and it's got a very deceptive name. It sounds like, wow, we're going to get solar power in Florida now. But really what it should be called is We Hate Florida and We Want It to Drown from Global Warming. Because what it does is it protects Florida Light and Power from actually integrating solar into the state plan, what they call subsidizing other people's use and whatnot, so that you have to actually pay Florida Light and Power for their gas, coal, and other forms of energy instead of actually helping build out solar within Florida. Now, Virginia Section 11A would add the right to work to the Virginia Constitution's Article 1. Now, right to work is a really deceptive phrase. What it really means is no unions. So states that initiate right to work laws are all about taking down unions so that you as an individual have to fight large vested corporate interests in order to receive fair pay and benefits. Colorado, Amendment 71. Amendment 71 would make amending the state constitution extremely difficult. Now, what this means is that things that have passed recently, like term limits and the legalization of marijuana, would not have passed under these new regulations. Oregon, Measure 97. It establishes a 2.5% sales tax on businesses with sales greater than 25 million. It'll provide $500 million in revenue to the state. This is important so the state can fund education, infrastructure needs within the state, but also it gives a bit of a leg up to small business so that people who aren't making 25 million in sales can actually compete against some of the behemoths that live and work in Oregon. Maine Question 5. This is about ranked choice voting. That means instead of simply having a binary choice as to who you're going to go with, you can actually rank the choices. And so if a lot more people agree on who the number 2 is and not as many people agree on who the number 1 is, you can actually get the most popular candidate in the state who seems to agree with the most people. California, Proposition 59 overturned Citizens United. It does not legally require officials to act, but instead encourages them to act. So it's not binding, but it sends a clear message to our reps in California that we don't want to live under Citizens United anymore. Proposition 61 in California requires state agencies to pay no more than the VA pays for drugs. Now, this is a big one that's supported by Bernie Sanders. And essentially what it does is it requires state agencies to not get bent over and robbed by the drug companies when they negotiate rates that they're going to pay for drugs for people in California programs. The drug companies have spent $100 million to defeat it. So think about that number. Where do you think that $100 million comes from? Well, they have that money because you're paying too much for drugs. Proposition 62 and Proposition 66. Both of these measures in California are about the death penalty. Proposition 62 bans the death penalty. Proposition 66 speeds up the appeals process and challenges that are mounted to death penalty convictions. But if one gets more yes than the other, then that's the one that's passed. It's important to understand this because by speeding up the appeals process and changing how people can petition death penalty convictions, what it does is it cuts down the amount of time that that person will remain alive. So if an innocent person's been convicted, there's a clock ticking much faster to save them from execution. Prop 64, this is our final one. This supports the legalization of recreational marijuana. Now, there's a lot of these medicinal as well as recreational initiatives going on in a lot of states. I chose California's Prop 64 because, let's face it, California is going to have the most epic pot industry that's ever existed. And where California goes, the nation, we hope, will follow. Now, what this does is that it authorizes the resentencing and destruction of records for prior convictions. There's been a bit of a shift on thinking of 64 in the last couple weeks because a lot of people think that it is going to target small growers and small businesses and put them at a disadvantage to the giant corporate companies that are probably going to move into the market. However, within the law, there's pretty much a 5-year ban on giant corporate-driven grows, which means there's 5 years that local growers and smaller growers can unite and figure out a way to beat them. So not only are we getting people out of jail by voting for 64, we're also improving the employment and educational opportunities for people out there who were caught up in the unjust drug war that we have going on today nationwide. I wish I had other props to talk about. I wish I had more time, but those are the 10 and a half that we're going to talk about, and get out there, vote, let your voice be heard, and make a real influence. We can really make a lot of difference with all of these props.